You are tuning into The Deal. I'm Danny Brown, and every week I interview the best real estate agents in the world and talk about seven-figure commissions, celebrity and high-profile clients, and the craziest real estate stories you could ever imagine. Enjoy this week's episode. Matt, good to see you. Welcome to The Deal, live from the Hamptons, New York. You look very beachy today.
That's right. So it's a Monday. We're keeping it casual Mondays here. So thank you, Danny. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, I've wanted to have this conversation for a long time. We have so much synergy in our markets, the Hamptons and LA, and our businesses. And, there's so much going on in the Hamptons. It's such a specific niche, high-end type of market, always sort of known as one of those markets that's in its own bubble, in its own cocoon, and sort of does its own thing regardless of what the rest of the world's doing. So since you are the man in the Hamptons and you grew up there, kind of give me a breakdown right now where we're at in the Hamptons market. Yeah, I know it's a big open-ended question, but give us a little breakdown of where you are specifically and what's going on in the Hamptons market.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. I could probably go on for a whole hour podcast
That could be it.
Hamptons and the market and what it is. And I listen, I grew up here. I've watched it evolve, and the Hamptons of the 90s was I called it a resort town. It was a weekend New York place for New York. It was kind of known a little bit throughout the world, but not probably fully. It was kind of building as a place to go, but it was really just like an escape for New Yorkers. It's like this, I call it the land of milk and honey out here. It's just like these farms and oceans, and it's beautiful. Like you're 90 miles from New York City, and you're like, it's just a light. And the artists always loved it, and people just come here. And it was kind of like this little haunt, like artists like Truman Capote, all these guys used to hang out here from New York. They just drive out here, and then I've watched it like over the years, 2000s, it took off, and then I got in real estate 2006, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And, I felt like as newer money moved into the Hamptons market, the way people live in the Hamptons has changed, right? And I think as technology has become more abundant, you saw a big move like out here more on a fuller time basis, like around 9/11-ish, like 2001. But there wasn't the technology to support it. And also like a different generation. Now you have this younger money that's just more into lifestyle than like I'm very wealthy. I don't have to live in New York City to say that I'm wealthy. And they also own different homes in different areas. So you just have a lot of newer money moving in that use the Hamptons. I call it, it's went from a resort town to a country town. So it's more of a weekend spot. Or a full-time spot. We compete a lot with Greenwich now. A lot of my demographics, I'm 41. I got a lot of like these people and I think COVID accelerated that trend. So when we went through COVID, people were like, I think it just like people were out here in March and they're like, this is great, and I think like it also accelerated a trend of being here all the time or full-time. And it's become much more of a more primary residence. And the difference between the Hamptons too than like a Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket or, more resorty areas is that you can go to dinner in one of the towns to like a Tutela Giorno, which is a great spot in the middle of February. And it's got a pulse, it's not like people actually enjoy the Hamptons in those seasons where it's like it's small town. You go to a coffee spot, they know who you are. They've seen your kids grow up. They see you. They're very friendly. Like it has that, and in the summer it kind of loses that. So people that are here a lot, like kind of like want that back. That own homes here. They're like, I want my town back because it has more of all the tourists and weekend Airbnbs and all this stuff and all these big rental stuff. And it's just like, and it's not like this time of year. It's just crazy. And hence me working from home today. It's just like it's hard to me to get the office and back. It's like a whole thing, So, but the market's like anywhere, right? And again, as I said, I could keep going on, but it's a beautiful place, and just people just want to be here. I've never seen so many people here in my life. There's a ton of demand. What that speaks for the market, like I don't know, that we're just dealing with everything else. Everyone else is dealing with higher rates and where the market is in general. But a lot of new construction. That's kind of been the primary asset people are looking for. So it's active. It's a challenge regarding just like inventory has kind of creeped up. Volumes down, but the problem in a wealthy market like the Hamptons, which is very like you can compare it to Aspen or Palm Beach, that it's very when you have very wealthy people on each side of a transaction, like a buy or a sell, they're like, well, I don't need to sell right now. I'll hold it. And they're like, well, I don't need to buy right now because I don't need to buy. I'll just rent. And you're like, all right,
Right.
great, guys. As a broker, you're like, all right, this is fun. Thanks, guys. This is great. I'll call you
Yeah.
in 2 months. Like, and that's like that's more of the logjam in the Hamptons. It has not there's more demand than ever to be here, and that's what's harder on the inventory because sellers don't want to sell, and that's where the new constructions come in, where people want to buy too. So that's kind of the Hamptons in a big nutshell. Hopefully, that's helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful. And there's a lot of parallels with the West Side LA markets that I'm in, where it's the same thing, where the market has shifted with interest rates, 2 years ago. Yet you get wealth on both sides of the transactions, and sellers don't have to sell, so they're not reducing the price. Buyers don't have to buy, so they're not always throwing in offers, and you get a little bit of a standoff. And if anything, that's why our transactions have slowed down. We have some other luxury tax ULA issues and such. So talk to me about. It sounds like the evolution of the Hamptons, which is spot on, is that it went from sort of a resort town, escape to the Hamptons town, to now this international resort town. Yet for the locals, a lot of people now seem to be living out there and commuting to the city. More of that trend.
Yeah, it's the new locals. I think like listen, the cities, New York City is amazing. I see a lot of people downsizing the city, or they're holding New York City, and actually like I think like in that post-COVID market where New York really resurged and there's just so much money. It's obviously one of the biggest business meccas in the world. Like we love New York
Yeah.
out here. Like the better New York is, the stronger the Hamptons is, right? Right. But like also people like there's just a change in lifestyle where people just really love the lifestyle of the Hamptons. Like and I see a lot of families like in there Tuesday to Thursday. I see a lot of people here. Obviously, listen, off season the population still goes down, but it's just not what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's not, and the business, everything stays open, which is a whole different thing. So, like, say you're a guy in the city, you have to be there like 5 days a week, or even like say you just want to be in the city a few days. Like they're here all the weekends all the time. I say you use it as a country town, you know. So,
Yeah.
what's driven the Hamptons too is that you saw a lot of money move to Texas and Florida, and obviously those places are very hot in the summer. They're here in the summer, so you have these different uses in the Hamptons. I call it a multi-edged sword. So it used to be one edged sword. Come out here in the summer.
Yeah.
Now it's got different edges. It's almost like a diamond. It's got all these different people that use it for different things. The
Right.
big guys, like some of my biggest clients, my big guys, just did a deal with a CEO a couple weeks ago, and they're here seasonal still, right? The big billionaire guys, they're here. They're here because they're here for the summer, or the wife's here. They're coming out.
Got it.
That little
It's home
private,
base for the summer.
yeah, that private airport in the summer looks like a apocalypse now. There's freaking choppers. There's jets. It's like,
Yeah. Like Aspen, like
it's like
Jackson
Aspen in
Hole.
December, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's very like, it's like a Aspen on the ocean type of vibes, a lot of wealth condensed, you know. And as Aspen, I'm a big fan of Aspen, has like the ski, they still got some of those like locals. You have like the new locals that are like, guys that run companies or funds that are here full time. Their wives are here. They go to school out here. They're back in city Tuesday to Thursday. You have that. And you have like local. You have the farmers, like,
Yeah. I love the farms out there. Beautiful.
yeah. Yeah.
So who are some of the big high profile people that you work with that you could speak about? I know a lot of it is NDAs.
Yeah, no,
As
man,
my
like
clients are.
it's
The ones you can't speak about.
I work like it's funny, like as like we talked a little bit before we started filming, like I come from real estate family. My mom's a broker, and I moved back out here at 22. I loved it, and I started getting into. I just got into real estate with her, and she threw me into the luxury sphere right away.
You dove into the deep end.
Yeah, and when you start dealing with ultra high net worth people, the same way you deal with them and athletes and celebrities is very similar. Like, you're a true advisor. You're really just trying to like understand them, ask them questions, understand. So like when I got referred, like it's funny, like the first athlete I ever got referred to was this guy named Kerry Rhodes. He was like strong safety for the Jets.
Okay.
He ended up never buying anything, but that was like I remember that was really fun. And I was always a sports guy, and then I got referred from another client I sold the house to, who was part owner of the Orlando Magic. He referred me to Jason Kidd, and that was like my first
Kid.
Yeah, so he was in LA obviously for a while. I guess actually.
Yeah, he was living on the street I grew up on for a while in LA.
Before I met you, Danny, I referred him out to LA to rent that place when he was assistant coach of the Lakers. If not, I would
Yes.
go with you, man. So
that was about 5 houses from where I grew up, and it was like 2 houses from my brother and sister-in-law, whose kids became friends with his kids. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, he was
small
a
story,
stellar guy. I
small
sold him his
world.
house in the Hamptons, and then he loved the Hamptons when he was with the Knicks
Yeah,
and with Dallas. Like after like he loved the Hamptons, he loved being out here. He joined a East Hampton golf club. He's a big golfer, scratch golfer.
yeah.
Golf clubs out here too. Like we have like I mean some of the best in the world, and attracts a lot of people too. But anyway, so he was fun. I sold it for him. Then he got traded to Milwaukee. He's like, man, like I'm going to Milwaukee. I'm not Hamptons is far
A
from
little
Milwaukee.
different.
We ended up
Yeah,
selling that, so that was really fun. Um, his house, and it's hard like managing them too because they've realized they own that. I remember like people get really excited to go show his house. You really had to vet people. That was kind of a crazy
of
experience and
course.
love it for him. And then, I've done a lot of rentals with more of the sports guys, um, you know, funny story. I rented a house to Jeremy Piven and he shows up and I get to the rental first and there's a bunk bed in there in one of the rooms. And there's this really nice older couple. They're like 80 years old. And I'm like, they're so sweet. And they have no idea. I'm trying to explain to them this is like and I grew up watching Entourage, so I was like, this is like
Yeah,
I'm like so stoked to work with this. I'm like, this is Ari Gold, man. He's
yeah,
coming.
yeah, yeah. It's
Like,
Ari Gold, baby. It's Ari
they're
Emanuel
like, who is
coming.
this guy, this gentleman? They had no idea who he was. I watched
Yeah, of
all his movies
course.
growing up and his shows and you know, and then I go into one room. I'm like, there's a bunk bed. They're like, yeah. I'm like, this guy's a movie star.
Yeah.
So like I had to call my other friend who was a builder. We had to go buy him a bed. We had to move the bunk bed out, and then when he left the rental, we had to move the bed
Back
back into the
in.
bunk bedroom. And it was so
Funny.
funny. He shows up, and I was like, "Listen, Jared," I had to grab him in the driveway, and I'm like, "Hey, listen, like this old man and old lady, they're very nice to own his house. They just want to meet you, and it's not actually like they don't even know who you are. They just like to meet the tenant and know who they like. So I was like, just like, and he ended up loving them. He's like, can they stay and hang out? Like they started hitting off. So it's just kind of funny the stuff you deal with as an agent, um, and then dealt with like I deal with a lot of the big ultra high net worth kind of hedge fund. Those guys in those like in that world too. Like I said,
Yeah, of
just sold a
course.
house to a big CEO of a company, and I've learned a lot being around those guys too. Just about business, about leadership, about life. Just get really impressed by how some of them lead their lives too. And I feel like sometimes they get a wrong perception in the public about who they are because a lot of them are really family guys and they just like but the same way with them and athletes like someone's always after what they want everyone's always like pitching them something so they're just protective.
Yes, they need to be. They
Yeah.
need to be. And I would say I love working with some of those high level business guys as well because you learn a lot from how they operate. You can pull bits and pieces into your own life, and they're human, right? Everyone's human, whether they're celebrities, athletes, CEOs, billionaires. I mean, everyone's humans. There's good and bad traits in everyone, and yeah, people do get a bad rap. Funny Jeremy Piven story of me. My parents rented this little beach apartment in the '80s, super cheap on Old Malibu Road, which in the '90s and 2000s became like prime Malibu. And Piven ends up buying. First, it was Chelios, the hockey player, but then Piven bought Chelios' house. It was literally next door, this huge house, and we were in this little apartment in this building. And he would just have girls and parties,
Yeah.
and we were like in college and a little out of
Yeah.
guy. We were like trying to hang out, like, wait, we want to be
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
entourage.
He was having a good time. I was trying to be careful what I mentioned, but he also
Yeah, he's a fun guy. Good
he
guy.
got in trouble. I think when he was out here in that same rental. I think the
I bet. I
post ran a
bet.
story on him. He was like having a really pretty good time. But he seems
That's
like
funny. Me and my
like
brothers and my
yeah,
friends, we'd be like, well, let's go over, let's go surf out there, let's go hang out. Can we come to the parties? We were
yeah.
in
It's
our
funny.
20s.
I got invited. I rented Trey Songz a house one weekend too, and I got invited to. This is like years ago, dating much, but this is like 10 years ago. But I got invited to he was having a pool party, and I was like, my wife's like, man, like you're not like. I want to go to Trey Songz, but she's like, "You're not going to Trey Songz pool party. I don't know what's going on at the pool party." And like, I would definitely been the
Yeah.
nicest guy there, trying to
Oh, it
hang
would have
out.
been on. It was so
Yeah,
on.
but it's funny what you do. And one
Yeah.
other story too, I work with, and most recently Dave Portnoy. I sold him his house in Montauk,
Okay,
and
nice.
from Barstool Sports, and he was really
Yeah.
cool to work with. Um, and that was cool experience. Like I think he liked me because he's very direct, a lot of respect for Dave, and I stay in touch with him, and he's always. I love guys like him that just made it. Like just took it from nothing, and he bought this new construction
Self-starters.
house. We found it to him off market, which we do a lot of too. We do a lot of private off market stuff, and that's a big
Yeah,
part
that's a big
of
way
what
to
we.
add value. So talking about some of the biggest deals you've done, what is sort of the biggest? I know there's massive ones all over the Hamptons. What are some of the biggest deals you've done?
Yeah, I mean the biggest one ever was in 21, and I was part of me and this other broker of mine. We sold the house. We sold Calvin Klein's oceanfront, very very
Nice.
high end, for 85 million.
Ooh,
I can't say to who, but it was a big. That was like
it was all over the
taking
press.
him around and showing him, you know, Ron Barron's oceanfront, all these guys, these big guys, and like learning that. And I think working with the big ultra high net worth guys, I've just, like I said, I've just learned the off market game because like the ocean, like say you're a big hedge fund guy in the Hamptons and you have like a $50 million oceanfront or 60, like they don't, that's not going on Zillow. You know what I mean? Like they don't
Right.
want it on
They
Zillow.
don't want open
They
house.
don't even want you to know, right? I
Yeah.
talked to a guy last week and I can't say anything because like I can't say anything on here because he'll freaking never talk to me again.
Right.
And
Of course not.
but he told me, he's like, I'm shopping into a few people. If you want, this is the buy side commission. This is
Yeah.
what I want. So it's a 3-figure oceanfront, like, you know, triple
So
figure.
what would the commission be on that house if it sells?
I mean, if you get 2%, you get 2%, right? But like,
So a couple
um,
$1,000,000.
yeah, I mean the ultra high, like it's a very ultra competitive market in the
Yeah.
Hamptons. When I first got into it in the ultra high net worth, and I do everything. I focus a lot on new construction just because it trades and it's like that. But then I also deal in that segment too, because like if you just focus in the ultra luxury segment of the Hamptons, it's almost like it's hard to run a consistent business, even though you can
Of
get these
course.
big checks because it's just like the volume's not there, and
Very
you got
few
to nurture.
deals. Yeah.
Like the
Very,
CEO I just called is I actually posted. I got a lot of hits on his social media because I was like, I got to tell the story. I worked with this guy for 3 years, literally 3 years,
yeah.
and I followed up with him, saying with him
Right.
like,
Ton of time, ton of work,
and then
ton of
like this
energy.
year, even which he didn't. His wife told me at the walkthrough, she's like, we weren't even sure we are gonna buy this year either. I was like, oh my god, I would have been till like I was like, I laughed with her. I was like, good thing you didn't tell me that because I probably would have gave up because it was the year 3, and they're very nice people, but like so it's just sometimes in that ultra market, it's like you see it, but it's not. It takes a lot, and these deals are stressful, and there's a lot of heart palpitations. These guys are very
Yeah.
smart. They're masters of the universe in a lot of ways. They're just really smart, and like
Yeah.
you
There's
can't
a
go
reason
wrong.
there.
You can't sell them, and the minute you lose their trust, it's over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like, and I've learned that over the years. So it's just like, just really just trying to detach yourself from the outcome of it and trying to
100%.
understand what they want and what they need and how you can help. And I mean, I asked that question so many times to clients. It's one of my friends, like, how can I help in this situation? What can I do to help?
That is such a huge piece of advice for high level agents or any agents. You got to detach from the result. You got to detach from, oh, if I close this and I get the commission, you can't think that way. You got to be an advisor. You got to build trust. And even when you're at this high end and it's a 7-figure commission, you got to completely block it out because you won't be working with these people for long. The minute they sense any sale, any need to close, like that's it. You're done. They don't want
Yeah.
any part of that. And
Yeah.
that's
And
a
it's like,
huge thing
of
to
course, if you go show
understand.
this guy oceanfront, you're like, oh, if I sell this, I'm going to make this. But it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, you think this guy's going to write a 3-figure check? You know how much money that is? Like, it's
Yeah.
like,
It's going
it's
to
like
take
the
a long
GDP of some
time.
countries this guy could write a check for. Like, and it's like, it's like, I've noticed, especially like a lot of these guys too, they're smart business guys. They're like computers. And it's like, you kind of have to educate them and they have to understand it. And they're kind
Yep.
of like, they're kind of building an algorithm for value in their heads. So you have to
Yep.
help them understand the value. And like, it's funny, like sometimes people in real estate, they're like, I try to take emotion out of the deals, like in the Hamptons, or Danny probably experienced this with like high net worth people. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to put some emotion into it. I'm like, buy it from your family, buy it. Your kids are going to be 25 by the time you buy
Yeah.
it.
They'll be
And
out
like,
of the house.
come on, like you can always like, you know, real estate is buy and sell trade, right? You can trade it at some point, trade up, trade down, like, but this is an opportunity. So like, it's high stakes here. It's fun. And again, coming from real estate family, my dad's actually a builder, so I've like been around the business my entire life.
Yeah, born and
Grew up,
raised in it.
yeah, grew up all around it, and so it's been fun.
Let's get back to this Calvin Klein sale. I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds massive. What was the commission on a sale like that?
Well, I had another partner. We split the buyer, and it was good. It was a good year. 21 was a good year. We did 307 million as a team that year.
Woo,
That was a big part of it. That 85, like
that's big time.
but like we average like right now we're at about like we're grinding for 90 million right now. We got every inch of it, and it takes
Of course,
so
a
some
different
years
world.
is like one thing I learned from being around my mom, who's been a top agent. Like when I came over from my mom in 2006, she was the number one agent. So it was like, she was legit and she did a lot of buy side stuff, but I kind of really got involved and tried to and built a listing program for her. I always had an entrepreneurial mindset. And
Interesting.
I used to run all the pitches. We go on a pitch and she'd have like I remember the first pitch we went on, she had like a Word doc. She's a top broker in the Hamptons, like
Yeah.
a Word doc with like a coffee stain on it. I'm like, Mom, like, what is that?
Let's elevate it a little.
Guy works at Blackstone. Like he's worth like $1 billion. You have like a Word document printed out. She's like, well, that's all my like numbers on it, and like I'm the
Yeah.
number one. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, like this is like, hold
Time
on.
to
So
make some
like,
changes.
and then we started built like I got her on Dropbox when that was new. I got her into like digitals. Like I had to like email. We started. Mailchimp had just started.
All
I
of
got
it.
her on like email blasting and just brought that in. She always said, she's like, Matt, you didn't
Yep.
make me number one, but you kept me number one. And what was great about that is when I worked for her for 7 years, I just learned how to market listings at a large level because we'd have like 250 million in market share when I worked for
Yeah.
her.
Woo. Big
And
business.
so when I went on my own, though, it was almost like I was really groomed to do that.
Is she still active?
Yeah, she is. She is.
Incredible.
And, despite my efforts, maybe one day she'll come over to the Compass team here. But she's
Oh, she's not in Compass. I
what we
didn't know
do.
that.
We know what's funny is like so. Danny, like a good story is like last year the Hamptons got very competitive too. So Asian wise, so you have these big teams. As I said, I've always called it the land of milk and honey, and I think the word is out. And I was always curious why more people didn't expand here. So these bigger city teams and bigger country teams are coming here. You've had smaller boutiques open up out here, and it's been very competitive. And for a while, I used to like when I first went on my own. I went on first on my own in 2014. I just wanted to build my name on my own. It was a big chip on my shoulder. I wanted to build my own thing,
Be
and I had
independent
my
for your
own
mom's
vision. And
business.
I all respect to my
Yeah.
mom. I learned so much, and she's incredible. I always say she's the best broker I've ever met. But I wanted to build my own brand and my own thing, and I kind of ran from like maybe trying to collab or whatever, or I just wanted to like do my thing and then like not feel like I just needed her, right? And it's funny. Last year, I was like, Why would I ever collaborate with another broker except her, right? Why? Like, and I was like, and I also feel like, and I don't know if you've heard this on your podcast, but I also feel like it's discussed a little bit. What I've heard in the real estate community is like, at least what I feel is like, I feel like collaboration between top level brokers and teams is the next kind of innovation in the industry, where it's like
Yep.
collaboration and teaming up from like perspective. And I
Yep.
was like, and I looked at my mom and I was like, oh, like has a different client base than me, right? Has a little bit different, has different style, way she markets, right? More print, more
Old
like kind of
school.
legacy media. Has a deep Rolodex of like she's like Lloyd Blankfein's broker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's got
Yeah.
a deep bench. And then I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I got like these people ask me like, what's your client look like? I was like, just watch an episode of Billions, and those are kind of
Yeah. That's it.
like that's like the archetype of who I
Yeah.
work with. But like, you got the Bobby Axelrod hashtag
Yeah.
type, right? Those kind of guys, they're like my guys. And then like what I bring to the table from a digital perspective, big in social, big in digital media. And I was
Yeah.
like, no one covers that. So in the Hamptons, you have these old school brokers like my mom that have been driving this industry in the Hamptons, driving the brokerage. And then you got like this newer generation of guys like me that are like coming in to the fold. And I was like, there's no brokerage or team that has both sides of that. There's not like one of
Yeah.
the up and coming guys and then or girls, and then one of the like kind of legacy top, in any market, which I'm sure you have, like those top
Yeah. Of
3 or 5 agents and teams that have been doing it for like decades,
50
that are
years. Yeah.
legacy. And I was like, what great. And I pitched this developer. She knew my mom. And I was like, let's do it together. I called my mom. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, and we took a $27 million
That's amazing.
modern house, new construction. We sold it in 2 weeks. We had
Incredible.
100 people at the open house, and I was at the open house, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, this open house wouldn't be the same without my mom, and it was fun because we got the band back together, and it wouldn't be the
That is
same if
awesome.
I wasn't there. And because we were like the number one team in 2009 and the number two team in the country in
Oh my
2009.
God. Where
So
is your mom? What is it, her own brokerage or is she at
no,
a,
Corcoran. I
oh,
mean,
she's at
trust me,
corporate.
for years I tried before that was even a cool thing. I was like, let's go,
Start
when I
your
worked
own.
for her too, I was like my late 20s and I was like full testosterone. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, of
let's start our
course.
own brokerage. And she's
Let's
like,
do it.
Matt, chill,
Slow down. So
slow it down.
what would your mom say about the real estate agent culture, the $1 million listing TV broker culture? And then I'd like to hear your view of it. But
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
hear what you
yeah.
would, from her lens, since it's such a
Yeah,
new
I think
phenomenon and didn't exist 30
I don't
years
think
ago
it
or
would.
even 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would bother her, but because she just thinks she's that much better than them, and she'd be like, nah, they're below. Like she would just have a feeling that like I'm just like
So
she's
far
a
above it.
queen bee in a way, in a very humble way. She wouldn't sound pretentious about it, but I feel like she would just be like, she knows what gets things sold. Like she knows it's
She
like a
doesn't,
different thing, so she
yeah,
just has a different view of it, and like she
right.
has that just kind of. That's why, like on our team, we say like I like part of my vision is always like I want to stand on the shoulders of the past because I respect them. I
Yeah,
respect the brokers like my mother that like came out here in the 80s and 90s and just put the work in and got things done and like how they
yeah,
did it and did it at a different time and like I respect that so much and like I'm always that's why I say like on like we try to disrupt things for better like we want to make things better but we understand the past and like we want to like learn from it but then try to innovate not that we want to throw it out it's not a
yeah.
revolution it's innovative in the sake
Improve
so
it.
you
What's the
know
next iteration? How do you get it a
yeah
little better?
and I believe in digital media. Like I'm huge, but I feel like you don't need a TV show. And I actually feel like cable and things is becoming like it's not dead. I'm just feel like it's kind of changing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and I feel like if you look at some of these stars and stuff too, like they have almost exemplified their presence like just from like YouTube and stuff like that. So I feel like the social media, I believe more so in the digital media, and you can maybe get some exposure from it. But I feel like you can also become just as big as anyone on Bravo if you lean into YouTube or lean into like social media in a way too, like with good
yeah,
content.
yeah. I mean, I don't know that I agree that you can be as big as being on Bravo just because there are hundreds of millions of viewers, but I feel like you can create that and you can build on that, and it may take longer, it may not be as big,
Well, if
but
you
for
find
certainly,
something, I think like, and I hear you, like, but I feel like there's like a lot of exposure from that perspective,
absolutely,
and I feel like in luxury markets they're viewed differently, like, um, it's almost they're just viewed differently, like in a lot of ways, right? So,
yeah,
um, but I've seen it. Like, listen, I'm good friends with Tracy, Tudor from your neck of the woods. I
yeah,
worked
yeah.
at
She's
Albany for a
great.
couple of years. I watched her. I knew her pre Bravo, just exploded. She's in Texas. Yeah, you know, um, Eklund Gomes is out here, like, seeing whatever. Like Ryan, I haven't run my own podcast. Ryan was on. I had a
Yeah,
listing on Ryan when he was at Nest Seekers. Always had a ton of respect for Ryan. I just know from like what he's done. I see the exposure just from putting out our content with him and
yeah.
what he carries in the marketplace. So
I'm
listen, it's a
sure.
big. It just shows you though the power of digital media, just in general.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, talk to me about some of the worst things about being a real estate agent. What are the things where you're like, man, I hate this part of this business? It's not all big checks and
We can have a whole other
celebrities.
podcast, man, for that
Yeah,
too. I think.
give
I
people
think
the reality of some of the bad
no.
stuff.
Listen, I say it's not 9 to 5, but it's 24/7, right? And like, it's funny. Like I had, Rob Revkin, actually CEO of Compass, on my own podcast too last week, and we didn't release it yet. But he said we talked about this, right? And I grew up
Yeah,
that way. I grew up sitting next to my mom's desk, like, "Can we go home?" This is before
yeah,
like kids had iPads and iPhones. You
right.
know, I never, I was like, "Can we go home?" I knew my mom's like office number by heart. I was like, "Are you coming home?" Like, and like, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of grind. Like, you have to be, listen. I think you have to be told no a lot. The loyalty thing really hurts. I've had to learn. I'm a very competitive person. This is one thing. This is self awareness this year. This is one of the hardest things. Is that when you work hard, you do your job right, you get it done, right? And then maybe they don't like. Firstly, for a developer, which are really hard, and they don't like. They say
They
they're going
don't,
to give you the next listing. They don't give
and
it
you
to
don't.
you.
Yes.
and you want to kill, like, you're just so upset. And
You've done
like
everything in your power right.
I have a personality like I actually I play golf, but I be careful how much I play golf because I just I'll go play golf and I'll have a bad round, and then I'll be like I want to go there next day and go hit 2,000 golf balls because I just
Yes.
want to win. I want to do it right,
You
and I want to do
compete.
it better, right? Yeah, it was like in baseball. If I had a bad game in high school, I got to go to the I go to the my mom and dad be like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm at the batting cage taking
Fixing
BP
it.
out."
Yeah, fixing
And
it.
so and you just that's it. Like it can really consume you, real estate, and then when you it can be very emotional when someone doesn't use you or they're close to you or they become friendly with you and like you're connected with them and you have this relationship and then they just kind of go in this direction, you feel used. And then like
Mm-hmm.
learning to control my emotional response to that has been one thing I've been working on. And like we just talked
It's
about,
hard. It's so hard.
practicing what I'm preaching, which is letting go and just be like, you know what? And just the whole relationship will change from there after
That's
that.
another huge piece of advice for people in our business, letting go. Because as you just said, and I relate to it so much, sometimes you go above and beyond and you put in the work and you execute and you do a great job and they tell you you got it, you're going to get the next one, and then you don't, and you feel used, betrayed, hurt, all that. And then you go, wait, did I do something wrong? And first of all, if you made a mistake, learn what that mistake was. But 9 times out of 10, you executed flawlessly and you got to let go because there's nothing productive you can do to hold on to the resentment and anger because it's just going to distract you from moving forward on the next deal or what's in front of you. And that's a tough thing in our business because stakes are high and some of these commissions, 6, 7 figure commissions, it's not an easy thing to let go of, but you
Especially
have
when you
to.
want it, when you need it. It's like the business is so hard. It's like when you're winning, and that's it too. Like you gotta wait, trying to cash flow and organize it as you grow and scale it. I feel like it's a hard business to
It's a
scale
hard juggle.
as a team. Yeah, I've just gotten my team smaller because it was like I kind of just grew too big in 21, 22, and kind of we just shrunk down. Um, and I want to like shrunk down to build back up later, but yeah, it's hard. It's very emotional. I think and then sometimes when you just want to get that deal, maybe you've lost a couple and you're thinking about the bills you got to pay and some of these things, and you get kind of lost in that. You can
Mm,
squeeze it too hard, and
yeah,
and
it
it's
hurts
not
you.
good. And yeah, it's hard. So that's really hard. This is like I think
You're right. That's a
the
perfect.
loyalty thing and learning to kind of ask too. Also like just learning to like we had this listing recently. We've had 85 brokers through this thing, 85 people with open houses. We run a
Yeah,
really aggressive listing program. We've had like 20 plus showings, which is just is huge numbers for the Hamptons. New construction home,
yeah.
and we can't get it sold, and we're trying to get it sold. And then he's like, this guy has the audacity. This guy that used to work on my team, he brought up like who's been pitching him, of course, which is an unethical thing too. Some of these things in the industry, which also are upsetting, right? And he's like, what about bringing this guy in? And
Bringing someone in.
yeah, and this guy that he knows through me that he used to work on the team, and I'm like, and I've been getting better, and this is, and that's like this is right, like what I hate about this business is the audacity to ask that question after be working so hard, and him being like, hey, like, why don't you try this? Meanwhile, he won't take the price reduction that I'm at, telling him maybe to potentially do, right, but it's like,
Yeah,
and that's hard, like when you have to go through that, but then standing up for myself in that moment and said, well, what's that going to do, right? Asking him that question, putting it back, like, well,
yeah.
what's he going to do?
Right.
And immediately putting it back in his court, him kind of stumbling over that and then kind of working through that, but staying non-emotional in that response when I feel like in the past, and maybe because I just turned 40 last year, I don't know, maybe it's my older age,
Oh,
but
you're so
just
old.
learning
You're so old.
learning to chill in that response and not to and it's a good
Get
lesson for anyone
defensive.
out there. Yeah, it's just understand their perspective and don't get emotional, but hold your ground in your perspective too, and just be like, hey, listen, no, that's not cool, you know. And learning to I had another client too, just the other day, try to call me, not to go off on this, but this is a $20 million listing, and I worked my butt off the first time. You just went through 3 other brokers from there. It's still on the market. It's
Yes,
like 4 years,
of
okay,
course. Of course, it's
and
a
it's in a main
price
area in the
issue.
Hamptons. And this guy was like this and he took my photos, gave them to the next broker. I was like, and I killed myself. And he called me. He's like, Matt, can you come over, look at the house again? Almost like he's leaning towards hire me again. And I was
Yeah,
like, I think I'm good. Like I'm not
I don't want to put
like,
myself through that.
yeah, I think like, especially in this marketplace, I think it's good for any agent to just get small, get tight, and get focused and stay away from distractions and watch out for the chatter because like you just got to go, you got to go where the deals are and where the best clients are in this type of marketplace for sure.
Another gem. You're just dropping science here, but that is so true. And when you
Yeah.
get to the, I guess, any price point you're in, there's always a level up. But when you feel that, oh, that $20 million this listing, but if it's an impossible client that won't reduce and it's 4 agents and it's 4 years, what are we achieving? It's the same issue. There's nothing, they're not learning from the market and what the market is saying to them, or they're not taking advice and they're just going to burn through you. And that's so painful. And you got, it's better to learn, like you said, like, you know what, stay tight, focus on clients that want to take your advice and counsel, want to make the best deal they can in this market today, and you help them do that, not the one that's forcing you to take the blame for that the market changed. It's not the same as 3 years ago and it's your fault. There's no point of that. There's nothing you can do with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
The
like what
other thing is, you mentioned that the some sort of unethicalness, and I get it. Like, there are agents that put themselves in those those sellers' ears by saying, "Yeah, you should bring me in for ABC," and they know it's BS. They know it's just playing on the fact that it's not selling and waving some carrot that's meaningless. I can't stand that. I mean, I always try to respect other people's listing agreements, and I just don't do that. But I know other agents feast on that, on the insecurity of the seller that's house isn't getting sold because it's overpriced, and they're just in their ear about it, just baiting them to get added to the listing or be the next broker in. And that's one of the things I hate most about our business.
Yeah,
Really.
no, and like I've gotten brought in times too, and there's been like maybe they want to make a change or they're thinking about a change, and like I always try to approach that like me and my partner Kevin, my right hand guy, we always say like let's be like being gentlemen, and that could be being a lady if you're female, but like we're like I try to be a gentleman about it they're like thinking about that change. I'm like, well, what have they done? Give me 3 things they did well, and then they tell me, and I'm like, well, what 3 things did they could do better that you're looking for, right? Like, and if you just like
Mm-hmm.
understand it, instead of being like, well, I'm the best and they're terrible, and I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
like sell this thing in 2 seconds, and it's just like if you just come at it from that perspective of like
I like that.
understanding of interpretation, like the questions, right? And like that's what I've learned, even being around good leaders. Like you always like you don't understand. They ask really good questions just to understand better, right? And
Yeah,
you
to get deeper.
you can't help a client if you don't understand where they're at and what their perspective or what they want. You're like, you come in there with this big marketing plan, you're going to like put it on the cover of the New York Post. Maybe they don't want to be on the cover of the New York Post at all, and that means nothing to them. Maybe they
Yeah,
like this, like maybe they like you just to call them 5 days a week. But if you don't ask the question, then you can't. You have to ask the question,
that's
and
another
that's what I
big
try to do
deal.
when I come in those situations. Instead of just like saying that, be like, well, all right, well, like and I always try to offer to collab. Like I'll collab with them. I've been in that shoes where it's like I don't never try to kick anybody off, but it's up to them though. I always understand that too. Like it's always the client's decision, and that's like
Absolutely.
boggles me sometimes when like agents are like, I'm going to tell them not to buy that. I'm like, dude, it's not your decision.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
their decision.
yeah.
If they want to
You're not
spend
the
more money
principal.
on it, it's not like I never like you kind of work for the transaction, right? Like let's get it. If you want to buy this, I'm going to help you buy this house, and this is what we're going to do to buy this house, right? If you don't, you don't. But like you could tell them your perspective if you think it's high, and give them some pitfalls from what it may look
Right.
like.
Here's what I think about the house, the pros and
Yeah,
cons
yeah,
as you go into this.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's where the industry's, and I feel like the industry's going that way too. And I feel like the brokers that are going to keep on that, and that's a little bit more of the old school that I don't like, which is that hard sell, which is like I feel like
Close.
agents grow up in these things, and they're like, okay, someone's standing on this side of the street, I'm going to yell at them to cross the street till they get to the side of the street, instead of
Yes.
just
Push them.
asking them why are you on that side of the street and what's making you fearful of crossing the street. It's a
Yeah.
different perspective, and I feel like
Very different.
the better brokers are doing that. But when they want, like, if they say I want to cross the street, okay, then I'm like, that's when you work for the transaction. That's when you're like, all right, let's get you across the street. How
Yeah.
do I like? That's
How do
when you
I
can put
get you where
harder
you want to
sales.
go?
That's where you can put more of that aggression in. But it's like push and pull.
Yeah, there's so many subtleties to it, and chipping and recalibrating, because each transaction and each client, it goes in waves, ups and downs, sideways. There's so many, you wear so many different hats
Yeah.
different styles of things. It's like figuring out, reading the room every moment as it's shifting. The
Yeah.
lights are out, going on and off. The colors of the lights are changing. You got to constantly pivot
That's
while
my
all that's
favorite
happening.
part, Danny. Like working for like I love the art of the deal, and I think
Yeah, me
like
too.
that's like, and I feel like when I try to like recruit prospects, and we love like on my team, I love growing. I got in at 22, so I love like a young guy that comes in my office wants to come grind and work, and I always want to understand and see how like you have to kind of like I feel like to be good at this, you got to really I think maybe don't have I don't know, at least in my opinion I feel like you have to kind of love the art of the deal and like getting that deal done and love that perspective of trying to get that thing happen because that's what really gets me going. At least I mean I feel like it's like trying to like when you get that, it's like getting an at bat in a baseball game or something, you know what I mean? Like you're up the plate, right? They're pitching to you, you're on the on
Yeah,
deck circle, you're on the dugout,
it's
you got an
chess.
offer.
You're playing chess.
Yeah, you're trying to get that deal done and try to get that transaction done and like you know like when I'm done with this industry at some point, all I want, like my reputation of being a deal maker, I just want to like of making deals happen, like, and
Love it.
that's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's a puzzle. You got to put it together. You're playing chess, and it's a puzzle. And how does it all fit together? And sometimes you got to add stuff. Sometimes you got to take away. Sometimes it's different every time.
For
So
sure.
if you weren't in real estate, and real estate wasn't even a business, like what do you think you would be? What would you be doing?
Ooh, good question.
Center field for the Yankees?
Definitely not, man. I did play some baseball, but the Hamptons, we grew them pretty good golfers, pretty good baseball players. I don't know, we have that there, but I don't know. I think like, I mean, I love like, I love advertising and marketing. I feel like say the real estate market has collapsed tomorrow. I guess if I put that question of like what I would do if I just stopped selling real estate today, I feel like it gets so hard sometimes. My wife's like, you could do anything, Matt. And I'm like, I don't know about
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
like, because it's like, you know, but like, I feel like I love advertising, marketing, maybe like digital ads or marketing or,
Okay.
something there about marketing company, like how to market product. Um, I do
All
some new
right.
development stuff, but that's kind of real estate
That's real
related.
estate. We're keeping you out of real
Yeah,
estate.
I know. So I think advertising
Yeah,
and marketing,
okay, fair enough. You could do that in any industry. So talk to
like
me
a
about some.
marketing company, like a media company, how to like market people's things or like whatever, you know.
Let's get into the Hamptons, man. I'm coming out to the Hamptons. Someone's coming. Like, let's get into like what are some of the hot spots? What are the restaurants? Where
Oh,
are you telling me to go? I
well,
know
I
there's
guess
a
my
lot of them.
it depends on who you are, like I think like it depends on like if you're like, you know, if you're like a fan, if you got kids or if you're like kind of coming out. I mean, if it's for you, like what do you like? I don't know. I didn't ask you, but
I'm
like, I
coming
mean,
out with the kids. I'm coming out with the family. I want to
yeah,
get some beach, some surf time. I want to go to some nice
California
restaurants.
guy. You're a California guy, so I would recommend Amagansett Montauk more so
Ah,
for you
I
because
love
Montauk
Montauk.
feels very California. Like Amagansett, like I call it like the Malibu of the Hamptons. It's
It's
very kind of
Malibu, yeah,
beachy.
yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Um, it's a cool vibe, and you're probably a California guy, so you're probably seasonal, right? So Amagansett Montauk is still very seasonal. Turns off in the winter. So I feel like for you, if you're like a 3 month person, 4 like kind of into there, like that's a great area. Amagansett is hard to, if you're commuting a lot out here, it's hard, right? So like most of the people that are using it more country town are a little bit more west. Um, I'm against it a little bit, but if you're like hanging out in Montauk, it's more of like you're here for a few months and then, you know, maybe once or twice in the off season if you want. So for you, I would probably recommend there. I mean, listen, Montauk is very cool. It's got a lot of great restaurants, and my good friends own the Clam Bar. Shout out to them. If you're ever driving down 27 going east, it's the best lobster roll in
Clam
the
bar.
Hamptons. Um,
What are
and
some other great restaurants? Give me some hot spots, whether it's in any part
well,
of the Hamptons.
listen, I think
East
Southampton,
Hampton, Southampton,
Southampton, you got
Sag Harbor.
San Ambrose, Tutto Giorno. Um, Sag Harbor, you got Bibiquay right on the harbor with $100 million yachts, big 100
Yes.
foot
Now
yachts.
you're talking, man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Sag Harbor also you have another Tutto Giorno, which is owned by Donna Karen, which is really awesome.
Not
Um,
bad.
Bobby Van's Steakhouse in Bridgehampton is like a legacy old school steakhouse. It actually used
Like
to be
old
across the street.
steakhouses.
And if you look, there's a photo in the bathroom there. If you look at it, and they used to all the artists and stuff used to hang out there and drink. And when it was across the street, which is now another restaurant called Dopo, which is open, which is fantastic too.
This
But
is in
Truman Capote,
Bridgehampton. Where is this?
yeah,
Oh,
right in
I
downtown
love
Bridgehampton.
old steakhouses.
Yeah, but it's
I gotta go
Truman
there.
Capote used to drink at the bar there, like hang out and
Oh,
like
amazing.
it's cool. Like that's a good great steak there. Let me try to think what else. Like, I mean, there's like great. All the towns had a Topping Rose is great, great restaurant, great little
There's a
hotel. Um,
yeah. There's
I
a
mean, there's
ton.
a lot of great spots. All the towns have their kind of different niche thing. Like Sag Harbor feels like Nantucket and feels like its own like almost has a Nantucket vibe. Deepwater Harbor, big boats, big. There's a big boating community in the Hamptons, which drives it
Right.
too. A lot of big like again, it's like lifestyle. Bridgehampton Watermill got that farm vibe, big polo, big equestrian.
Polo. Yeah.
Hampton Classics coming up this week, which is huge. You got people from all over the world coming here to ride horses, and then Sunday, it's got the big event and this big tent, and everyone's got hats and like
Where do
cool.
they do the Hamptons Classic?
It's in Bridgehampton, and
That's
they do it
fun.
every year. It's for a week, and then Sundays like they call it Grand Prix Sunday, and
Yeah,
like you just
I've been
like
there.
I
It's
go
fun.
every year because it's just from real estate, and I just like
It's
use my
fun. I've been
contact.
there a couple times.
My wife loves to go. She like loves it, so it's like my thing. I take her to, and you go in there and you walk. You know, you'll see like how you see like all you see Howard Stern. You're walking by like Billy Joel. You see like all the guys like whatever. If you're ever in the Hamptons, you want to go to Amagansett. Stephen Talkhouse is phenomenal. Paul McCartney was just walked on stage last week out here,
Oh,
and Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, one of your people, who has a
one of
house
my
in
people.
Montauk, by the way. Yeah,
Did he get on
California.
stage and just start
He
pounding the
did.
drum?
He started playing. So
He
you
likes
also
doing
there's
that.
videos online. Look it up if anyone's listening to this. Go Google that. And Chad Smith and like there's some other major artists. I forget his name. I'm too old now. But some other younger artists was just jumped up, started playing guitar. Chad Smith started playing drums, and then Paul McCartney comes up on stage and starts singing. And God rest his soul, Jimmy Buffett used to have a house in Sag Harbor. He used to walk on stage and he used to
Jimmy
show up
Buffett.
on a random Wednesday night and just like plug in and start
Can you
playing.
imagine? Oh my
Yeah.
God, how cool would that be?
So people in the Hamptons, like, there's a lot of like these people. They don't get bothered as much here. It's not like paparazzi as much. Like it's like
They're used
they
to it.
don't.
Yeah, it's
They get you see some of it, but it's not like they get a lot of privacy. Like you get like, so you have like this kind of mix of like it's a melting pot of like J Lo has a place here. All of them like kind of mixed together with like these billionaires, these business people, then like local like old school farm guys that run these great.
like Malibu, and it's very similar to LA.
Yeah, yeah, very very similar. So I mean, it's every town is great. I feel like it's a big pizza. So when I advise clients, it's try to like understand. That's where the questions come and try to understand their lifestyle, how they're going to use the Hamptons, and like you can kind of advise them where to go. But it's amazing because you can experience them all, and it's actually a lot. It's big, but it's small. Like if you're here and you want to go take a day trip to Montauk and just spend a day, like say you're a Bridgehampton guy and just a person or family, and you're just like, hey, let's shoot out there today. Let's go down. Like let's grab a clam bar, get lunch.
Yeah,
Then we'll
yeah.
go out to the pier, watch the surfers. Like big surfing community out there too, because
I know.
it's a hard bottom and it's rock and it holds the swell and it catches swell from all over the place. So
Yeah, I get good waves there.
yeah, so
Yeah, I love it. Where are the young, hot, cool kids going these days? Kids that are going out.
when I grew up here in the '90s and the early 2000s, '90s I was a kid, but early 2000s it was like there was all these clubs and stuff all over the place, and they'd be
Yeah,
interesting
I
clubs.
remember that.
Like a little house that like there's a place called Jet East in Southampton. My friends from college come out, I'd be like, "That's the club. It looks like a cottage," and it'd be like this little house, but it's like,
Bump
like
it.
it would just jump in, and then like Diddy would throw parties there, right? And
Yeah.
then like but now it's just Montauk because it's really zoned. Montauk has the resort zoning,
So they
and it
allow
has
it.
yeah. But there's a big fight in East Hampton. This guy from there's a lot of commercial money coming to the Hamptons right now because it makes more sense. The money in the summer's incredible,
Yeah.
but like I feel like the season's been extended and stuff too. But Montauk's the like Surf
Party
Lodge and
place.
Surf Lodge and all those spots, Bounce and things like it's like a big like
Just remember in the 90s and early 2000s, it's like everywhere. You'd go out and visit friends, and they would go to the Hamptons. It was just clubs and, like you're saying,
it's
these
become a lot of young
bungalows.
families. Yeah.
Yeah, now I
How's
guess
work?
everyone aged. We all got old and had kids, and now it's
Yeah.
a nice
Now
dinner and a day at the beach and golf
it's
and
family, more
polo.
country town. It still has that, but yeah, polo's big. They brought that back. It's still there, so it's like, it's changed. I think the Hamptons in that regard, it's become more about like entertaining at home, and which has changed real estate, right?
Totally.
Like you've seen a move to different parts of the Hamptons that have bigger properties. So then like like I live in Watermill North, and like my house, like I'm on 3 acres, and like
That's nice.
some of these guys are buying newer homes in these areas that have like for half the price of say something closer to the ocean, they can get a tennis court and 10,000 square feet and have people over, and then you see a lot of that. A lot of entertainment at home in the Hamptons has become more the norm
Yeah.
because you don't want to end up like our friend Justin Timberlake, who, when you just get a lot of these
Driving.
cops out here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like we don't have a lot of crime, so just so you know, if you come to the Hamptons, just be careful. It's
Don't drink
you
and
know,
drive.
and listen, God bless the police because they try to, they got to keep, it gets crazy out here. You get, people driving that don't drive a lot, and like they just try to keep tabs on things, but
You always get the
it's
knuckleheads that want to ruin it for
yeah.
everybody.
But people have fun at home. They can entertain at home. It's a really fun thing to like. You see a lot of that, like having dinner parties or have people's kids come over, and hang out. So,
So where's the OG Hamptons guys go on vacation? If you're going on vacation, your family, where are some of the spots you like when you're getting out of New York?
oh yeah. So I mean, it's funny. I have a place in Vermont, and it's for me. I know some of the guys that own businesses here, or like are entrepreneurs like me here, own like they go like they detach. They go to like upstate New York, or they go to like New England or Vermont or Maine. I talked to a client
Right.
yesterday, a big developer out here who's in Maine. Because it's just quiet. It's different. Maybe like I always joke, like, and I love New York and I love New Yorkers, but it's like I go to New England and it's just like I always say, like Vermont's good at like pancakes, syrup, and IPAs, and that's like really what they got
That
dialed
sounds
in.
good to me.
And I'm good, man. It's like a different vibe, and like if and I love it. I got engaged in Aspen to my wife. I love Aspen, but I'll go to Aspen. I'll see everyone from the Hamptons. I'll see all the New
Right.
York guys. I'll see all the guys
That's
I know from the city, and
yes.
it's like
And all the
Vermont for
LA
me.
guys.
Yeah, and all your friends and everyone's
Yeah.
friends. Like I got to be on. Like I can't relax, and I feel like that's where I go to detach. Is that
Yeah, I get it.
um
It's so
and then North?
beautiful out in those
Yeah,
countrysides
yeah.
too.
North Fork's really fun too. Like if you're, just for anyone out there, if you ever want to like great wine taste, you want to shoot over there, hit the wine, vineyards and stuff. Like it's definitely a different vibe. Than the Hamptons. A lot of big protected land, and it's very interesting over there too. So like that's my wife and I have done that a few times too. Like just kind
Yeah.
of get out and shoot over there.
Well, before we close here, I want to hear a little bit about your podcast and any last words before we close. So, talk to me about your podcast, and I know you had Ryan on recently and
Yeah.
Robert
No,
Reffkin.
thanks for the plug. I appreciate it, Danny. Like it's called Back Disrupt. And listen, I've always been I've always considered myself like my wife always says, if you want me to do something, tell me to go. If you want me to go left, tell me to go right, and then I'll go left. And I've always had a little bit of that, like just that driving me to like do it in like kind of my own way or push it or innovate something or do it better. And it's always been disruption and a good. I call it for disruption for good. Disrupt for good. We don't want to revolutionize. We want to disrupt for good. And that's always been like I was one of the
Love it.
first local kid at 22 in the Hamptons to come work out here. There was no kids from local kids. Everyone thought I was
Yeah,
crazy. All my buddies were moving to New York, and I
yeah,
was like, I love it out here. I'm staying out here, and I disrupted. Right, I was that. Right, then I worked for my mom for like 6, 7 years, and then I decided I was like, I want to go out on my own. And everyone was like, you got a good gig. What? Your mom's the number one broker in the Hamptons. What are you doing? I was like, no, I want to like. I have this vision. I was always pushing it, and like even when I joined Compass, everyone was like, this is a new company. I joined like late 2017, early 2018. It
yeah.
was like a whole different company. They're like, "What are you doing?" So I joined, and it was like I was always like trying to like do the thing that. So when I started Bat Disrupt, I was like, "Yeah, this is like it's kind of the ethos of like what I am." Like let me and I have great conversations like we're having now. Like I go to all these events and go hang out or go have dinner with like great agents like yourself, Danny, and have these great conversations. And I'm like, I wish we had a video camera
Yeah.
because like kind of probably how you thought. Like I'm like, this is awesome conversation, and I wanted to like give air to agents and how smart, great agents are, and like give them a voice, and also be a voice myself to like understand the power of digital media, get that out there, because agents like we have so much, just this great conversation about
Yeah,
things. And I think it's interesting. And I was
totally.
like, I would love to interview the best like innovators in real estate, the ones that are really pushing the envelope or who have pushed the envelope, and like sit them down and like make it conversational and start it. And we kind of started, I started with people I knew at like Compass that were easy to talk to and some of that. And then I kind of grew from there to like, yeah, we just had Ryan Serhant on. The video on YouTube got I think it's at 9,000 views. Um,
Incredible.
and I understand like what we do is too, is I realized that like we made it more video series too at the same time, where we cut it into clips. I knew everyone's attention span.
Yeah, it's all
Notice
about
that
clips.
podcast.
That's what they've been telling me.
Yeah. Podcast when I'm out there, I'm like I see like Joe Rogan's or see Logan Paul's podcast, but I've never even listened to, I don't think, a full episode of their podcast, but I see their stuff on social media over time. So we try to deliver it kind of on a broadcast digital forum like that. And yeah, we just had Rob Reffkin on, and we were talking about family things too. He said something cool, because you brought this question up earlier, but he said it's not about it's not about like separating real estate from your family. It's about integration. And
You're right.
like
Brilliant.
all of my kids have been on listing appointments. They love coming to my office. They've been on, like, not listing appointments, so they've been on like like they've been with me. I either go open a house up, just stay in the whatever. Like you kind of just integrate the whole thing. So, but it's been
Yeah,
fun. I've learned a lot, and I feel like I've gotten better just listening to people, and it's been really fun. And we've had some great guests. We're trying to continue to get some other great guests. We had a great architect out here. We have a $12 million one of his, like, a listing that he designed, and it was just like we're trying to get some top architects, top people on it. So it's been really fun just learning and talking about real estate. And
totally
so
can relate.
yeah,
I mean, that's very similar to how I started this. I started doing this like 6 years ago, basically with the same concept. Like, hey, just want to record these interesting people and conversations I have every day and get it out there and let people hear. And maybe there's some things people can learn. Maybe it'll just be entertaining. And yeah, and then I learned, all the people in the podcast business 5 years into it were like, well, you really should be doing clips, because I didn't care. I didn't do the clips. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I just started doing clips 5, 6 years into this. It's like, yeah, you got
yeah,
to do clips. No one's listening to the whole podcast. Like, okay,
yeah,
I'll do clips. I'm doing
yeah.
clips.
It's funny. I did the opposite thing. Like the guy, I was like, you gotta make them longer, and then we'll cut it up more, because I was doing it more like, it was when I first started, it was like 20, 25 minutes, and then now we've extended it to like however it goes,
Yeah,
and making it more free form, higher level. Like, but it's just the power of digital media is so powerful, right? And I think it's just like creating the content, and like I think every broker's got a great voice and I feel like I talk to agents all the time, and it's been fun. Like my kids think I'm like amazing. I was actually out to dinner with, like, I took
good.
them out to
That's
dinner.
all that matters.
No, it was funny, and this guy come randomly up to our table, and he's like, "Hey, I saw your podcast," and my kids were like, "You're on YouTube?" Because they like, I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on YouTube," and
I'm
they're
on
like, "No
YouTube.
way!" And it's amazing to reach. I was actually like in a store the other day in the Hamptons too, and this guy was like, I was talking about real estate
Love it.
randomly, and he was like, "Hey, were you on with Ryan
Incredible.
Serhant?" Like, yeah, and it's like the reach is there. Like if you look at these guys, like the Paul brothers and these guys, and the reach that these
Yeah.
have, and like my daughter will be watching this like girl play with toys, and then I look her up, and I'm like, she's worth like $15 million, and she gets like whatever amount to go open toys by like Fisher Price, like it's just amazing, this whole new world. And like exploring that from a real estate perspective is awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, look, any last words, or we can end on that. But that was so good catching up with you, and so many similarities, both business, family, podcast. I mean, we have so many overlaying themes that we connect on. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Danny. I appreciate the invite. We're definitely looking forward to, let's definitely get together, get you out
Yeah,
here.
I'd love to
I'll
get
bring
out to
you out there.
Montauk. I'd love. I
That
wish
was one of
school
my
didn't
favorite.
start so early. The kids
I
already
know.
started school. Otherwise, we were like, we would love to like go out to Hamptons and spend a couple days on the beach and surf. And I just
Yeah,
don't know if we're going to make it this year, but I'll let you know next time. We'll be there at some point in the next 6 months.
yeah. No, it's all. It's funny. Like I'll leave with this, is that, speaking of my podcast, I had Stephen. I don't know if you know Stephen Shane, but he's a top broker
Yes,
in
of
Akron. And
course. Yes, yes.
I had Stephen on the pod, and he looks
He
like a
was
movie
on
star.
mine. Yeah,
He's so
yeah.
cool. He's such a suave dude. I was just like, dude,
So smooth.
where'd you get that sweater, man? That thing's awesome. Like, and he's like very, very chill. And he looks at me and he's like, man, business is nothing more than people. And it was like, he had the pause down. It was like, that was it. That was the line. I
That's
was like,
it.
and I was like, that's it. It's just like, let's connect more, Danny. Like, talk more. It's all people. That's what business is. It's this relationship. So
Absolutely. That's life. It's all people, Matt. It's all
let's
people.
do it. All you need is the people, man.
I'm jealous that I'm not there on the beach with you right now, but thanks for spending some time, man. We'll catch up soon. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you like what you heard and you love real estate as much as we do, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review and a comment. That would help our ratings so much. If you want to hear more episodes, you can go to The Deal with Danny Brown on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere else you consume your podcasts.